Henry Reichman in Censorship and Selection Issues and Answers for Schools says that censorship is the removal, suppression, or restricted circulation of literary, artistic, or educational materials on the grounds that these are morally or otherwise objectionable in light of the standards applied by the censor. Challenges to Materials in School Curriculum, according to the Censorship of Curriculum Materials by Jean Aguilar Despain and Alan Bass, generally arise in the following areas: sex and drug education, literature showing children challenging parents and authorities, teaching evolution without reference to creationism, showing women behaving in non-traditional ways, and invasions of privacy or projects requiring students to share personal information. The books in question sometimes feature scenes of violence or offensive language. Sometimes they're posed for religious reasons, as in the case of both Harry Potter and the Bible. But one unfortunate outcome is that 52% of books challenged or banned in the last 10 years feature so-called diverse content. That is, they explore issues such as race, religion, gender identity, sexual orientation, mental illness, and disability. Before a book becomes banned, someone must first challenge it. The American Library Association defines a challenge as an attempt to remove or restrict materials based upon the objections of a person or group. A successful challenge then results in a ban. Each year, libraries across the United States report hundreds of challenges. The leading cause for contesting books are sexually explicit content, offensive language, and inappropriate subjects for minors. As the National Council of Teachers of English and International Reading Association note, there is an important distinction between selection based on professional guidelines and censorship. Whereas the goal of censorship is to remove, eliminate, or bar particular materials and methods, the goal of professional guidelines is to provide criteria for selection of materials and methods. Objections to material dealing with sexuality or sexual orientation commonly surface in elementary schools and middle schools when individuals, often parents or religious leaders, demand the material's removal with the claim that it is not age appropriate for those students. On closer examination, it is clear their concern is not that students will not understand the material, but that the objecting adults do not want the students to have access to this type of information at this age. If professional educators can articulate a legitimate pedagogical rationale to maintain such material in the curriculum, it is unlikely that an effort to remove it would be successful. Of course, hardly anyone admits to censoring something. Most people do not consider it censorship when they attempt to rid the school of material that they think is profane or immoral, or when they insist that the materials selected show respect for religion, morality, or parental authority. While parents have considerable rights to direct their own child's education, they have no right to impose those judgments and preferences on other students and their families. School officials who accede to demands to remove materials because of objections to their views or content may be engaging in censorship. Even books or materials that may find objectionable may have educational value, and the decision about what to use in the classroom should be based on professional judgments and standards, not individual preferences. Efforts to suppress a disfavored view or controversial ideas are educationally unsound and constitutionally suspect. Books like Gone with the Wind by Margaret Mitchell have been banned because of its realism and its portrayal through tough times, and perhaps tending towards the optimistic views of slavery and the worst of the N-word and darkies. Or the book The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald was challenged by the Baptist College in South Carolina because of the book's language and mere references to sex. More common books like The 13 Reasons Why by Jay Asher was banned because a parent considered it to be pornographic, or TTYL by Lauren Miracle, because it's telling kids to rebel against parents. It's telling them it's okay to party, cuss, and do other obscene things in the book. And The Absolute Tree Diary of a Part-Time Indian by Sherman Alexie, which deals with racism, poverty, and disability, is banned for language and anti-Christian content. Hurt when Jessica Herthel and Jazz Jennings' picture book I Am Jazz about a transgender girl is banned. The history of children's book publishing in America offers insight into the ways in which traditional attitudes about appropriate stories often end up marginalizing the lives and experiences of many young readers rather than protecting them. The distinction between books that have inspired calls for censorship, including series like Nancy Drew and the Hunger Games, versus the works that more often have actually been kept out of children's hands, like Huckleberry Finn, To Kill a Mockingbird, or the novels of Judy Blume, reveals the insidious effects of this tradition. Whereas violence or elements of fantasy rarely lead to widespread censorship, concerns about race or sexuality are more likely to restrict circulation. It's an especially troubling tendency considering the structural biases within the publishing industry that have made it harder for minority authors to get children's books published. In effect, this pattern means the industry serves those who benefit from the status quo, which is why most scholars see children's literature as a conservative force in American society. Quiet decisions by librarians to not carry titles such as Kate Messner's The Seventh Wish, whose protagonist has an older sibling grappling with addiction, or Alex Gino's George, which is about the life of a transgender fourth grader, reflect a resurgent fear and misinterpretation of difference. As Messner wrote on her blog after being disinvited from a planned school talk, "When we say the book is inappropriate, we're telling those children your situation, your family, your life is inappropriate." More broadly, keeping books about certain types of children or experiences out of libraries or putting them on separate shelves perpetuates a troubling vision of a sheltered American childhood that in fact has rarely existed. That message of tolerance, compassion, and affirmation aligns with the values of Banned Books Week, as well as with the ideas of children's literary classics ranging from Little Women and Tom Sawyer to The Diary of Anne Frank and Roll of Thunder, Hear My Cry. This shared sensibility is grounded in respect for young readers, which doesn't mean providing them with unfettered access to everything on the library shelves. Instead, it means that librarians, teachers, and parents curate children's choice with the goals of inspiring them rather than obscuring new ideas. Such an approach allows kids to learn how to navigate imaginary worlds filled with differences with the faith that they will apply those lessons to their own lives. Our understanding of First Amendment freedoms is fragile and imperiled by increasingly effective and sophisticated attacks. In numerous communities, people are determined to impose their own narrow views on everyone else and censor what they do not approve. The First Amendment exists to protect speech and activities that are unpopular. If only those ideas which were popular were protected, it wouldn't be needed. Limiting free speech is un-American. Without it, all our rights and liberties quickly disintegrate. Censorship is an assault on the rights of all of us. We must continue to fight for freedom, to read, to see, to know, and to think for ourselves. You can report challenges to the American Library Association by going to www.ala.org/tools/challenge support/report.